am live on location here at the historic King's Court here in Sierra Vista. Following its donation to the city of Sierra Vista, the property experienced a significant decline, and we're going to show this decline. I've got Eric Peterman with me right now. And Eric, you remember the King's Courts here when they were flourishing, I guess more towards the end years, of King's Court, because they were built in 1981, and I guess the owner was Dr. William McCormick.
Correct. Yep. And I got here 2011, and I mean it was there were businesses that ran out of here as well as tennis, and this was like the business area. You can see that they have their own postal drops here from where different businesses, like I think they had a tax accountant here. They had some other things. Here's where the tennis courts were, and they're pretty well deteriorated by now, but they've taken down all the nets and everything.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's dangerous now. The wood is dry, and it would catch fire easily and quickly.
You look right here.
Yeah.
Is this an example right here?
You'd want to be careful there, Todd.
Yeah.
That's
pretty bad shape.
And you're walking on broken glass.
And I'm walking on broken glass. There's a song by Annie Lennox called "Walking on Broken Glass." I never thought I would be, but I am right now.
This is the outside part of it. You can see there's a couch there's a room on the other side of this room. This is where the electrical was. And the locker rooms are in there. There's a pool that's in the back. I'm not sure, but upstairs, and we won't go upstairs, but there was a place you could have dinner and a bar. It was beautiful. It was really, really well done. This goes to the pool. And,
they actually had a pool here.
Yeah, real beautiful.
Oh,
it
my
was
gosh.
a really nice facility.
There we go.
Yeah,
that's
where you point that. There's a lot of obscenity there.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah, a lot of vandalism has occurred.
Now there
here.
were courts on the other side as well. In addition to these. Now,
Yeah.
Before you go, the company that bought it, Supreme Court, is based in Toronto. They started the refurbishment of the courts.
These courts over here.
Yeah, exactly. And but as you can see, just on the other side of the wall, there are lots of residential homes. And God forbid if something ever happened where it had caught fire, it would have been jeopardizing a lot of people.
And that's why the city is stepping in right now to.
Well, that and just, it's not it's not someplace you'd want to hang out. I mean, it's just not healthy. So we can't really go anywhere there, but we can go back. I can show you.
Let's go this way here, Eric.
All right.
And folks can see here. You can imagine at one time. I've only been here 8 years, so I wasn't around when this was flourishing. But you could see that this was a pretty special spot at one time.
Oh yeah, and nice bar, beautiful look. I mean, quite a compliment for Sierra Vista. Here's a freezer.
Oh, so this was the freezer.
Yeah, we had a freezer room. So.
Oh my gosh. But then, like you say, a lot of the homeless people, and
it's unfortunate.
Troublemakers
really
or whatever.
I mean, there's been vandalism. I mean, kids.
And vandalism.
The city invested about $35,000 in the fencing that you see on the outside to try and prevent people from coming in. Unfortunately, they cut a hole in the fence.
Oh yeah.
And so it worked a little bit, but not a whole bunch.
So a lot of the homeless people would come and hang out here to get out of the elements, and then I guess while they hung out, they did a little destruction, and again, not just could be anybody that came in.
Yeah, it could.
Not just focusing
I wouldn't necessarily
because we don't. I mean, I don't know for sure.
So these were locker room facilities, in the day, and obviously restroom and
But look at all the damage
Yeah, it's very
that
sad.
individuals caused when they got into this building here.
Yeah.
And it obviously made it a lot more difficult for Supreme Courts from Canada
to recover,
to make this functional.
So I mean, it's kind of a sad thing. Who knows? The property's got should have value. I mean, the property there's an apartment complex on that side. There's Sierra Springs on the other side. There's a pretty wash that's there that really,
right.
There's a potential for however they want to develop the property. I mean, I've heard everything from maybe they want to turn it into, pickleball courts or something like that. Who knows?
But the one thing is, at least the city is helping get the building part taken care of.
Well,
so that
yeah. I mean, they're addressing the public nuisance aspect of it, which is important, right? I mean, that's what you want. And then, it's also rodents, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, it's just sad.
Kind of blessed because it hasn't caught fire, and I got to give a shout out and credit to the police department and the fire department because they respond every time that they get a call about King's Court. They respond and they keep it clean. They keep it, they keep people out of it. I know for a fact that in the last 2 years, there have been at least 12 calls made they're prompt. They come right out. They do the inspection. They don't, and in some cases they route the person out of the King's Court. Other times, they don't find anything. But they've been great in terms of both the fire department and the police department. I know the fire department checks it every so often, so they've been great public service for that.
Well, and like you say, Eric, unless you've got 24/7 security on a site like this, you're not going to, as we saw the damage in there, you just can't keep everybody away unless you're literally sitting here in the parking lot 24/7.
That's right. Exactly.
And you you say, when people did see people here, they called it in and the police came, but it's a never-ending circle in a situation like this, unless you've got, proper fencing that they can't get through or something.
Right. Yeah.
Which, like you say, they cut a hole and
they got through anyway.
So, but it is sad, that this once beautiful property is in such state, but at least now, the city is doing something about it, taking action,
right,
and at least getting the building taken care of here.
Yep.
And then the company.
I think they're about ready to fire it up.
Well, we'll see what happens here. And then the company Supreme Courts out of Toronto, Canada, who technically, I guess, still own it, right?
So the agreement that the city made with Supreme Court was that they were going to buy it for $500,000, and they ended up financing it through the city, if I understand correctly, and I could be wrong, but my understanding is they financed it through the city. And so the part of the agreement was that Supreme Court would have to pay their property tax as part of that agreement. Well, they failed to pay their property tax for 2023, and so the city took action, and they've negotiated with Toronto. It's difficult, and anybody who's had exposure to it can verify. It's difficult when you have a nuisance property to get a remedy as a public, because so much, and it should be, so much of the laws are written to protect the property owner and to prevent just the random takeover of property. You want to protect property rights. It's a good thing that they do. So it's taken a long time, and but got to give shout out to Matt McLaughlin at the city. He's negotiated with the company. It's not going to cost nearly what the city first anticipated to bring it down. It's supposedly the contract's for about $85,000. This is a company out of Tucson. I have their card, Cat Claw Contractors, and they'll be here for the next week taking it down, and they've got to not only take it down, but then they've got to haul it to the dump, and the dump fees are not going to be cheap either. So the city got got a good price.
Sounds like they got a steal of a deal for $85,000. If that's the case,
Yeah,
that's a pretty
and
good deal.
And that is a good deal for removing, and that goes on the tab for Supreme Court. The city's not paying that. The Supreme Court is going to be liable for it.
Okay, gotcha.
And of course, the property itself has value. So, the hope, if they're not going to develop it, I'm sure that the hope is that they recover the cost of purchasing the property and demolishing it from the value of the property itself. So we'll see what happens. It's going to take time, but we'll see what happens.
But like you say, at least now, because you actually live in the neighborhood here, so you've been kind of seeing, the situation here for some time now.
Yes, yeah. And
so I'm assuming a lot of the neighbors here are happy that at least this is being done today.
I hope so. I haven't polled the neighbors, so I couldn't answer that. But at the same time, I mean, who wouldn't be, right? I mean, like I said, this, if this, God forbid, if this were to catch fire.
Or somebody purposely sets it on fire. Or arson happens,
right,
as we've seen around
correct
the area as well at certain locations.
And depending which way the wind blows, there's a neighborhood on the backside of this as well. So I mean, I don't think it would end well.
Right, exactly. So it's a good thing that they're doing this. I just hope that once it's all done here, that the city, working with Supreme Courts out of Canada, can figure out a game plan and finally get something on this property here going.
Yeah, that or sell it to a developer who does,
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Well, we'll be following the destruction of this. We'll do another video once they actually start.
Yeah.
But Eric Peterman, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah,
Appreciate it
my
here.
pleasure, Todd. And
absolutely.
I'm going to capture some drone video.
That's right.
When this thing gets started, and
you've got a drone license now, so you're doing a lot of drone coverage, video coverage, and so you're going to get some bird in the sky view of the destruction here. From start to finish.
There you go.
All right, and
thanks, Todd.
And we'll air that on Cool FM Live when you get it all together as well too. So
very good.
All right.
Good. Yeah, next few days, this will be the scene. So they'll have trucks going in and out of here as well. So probably a decent idea not to. I mean, it's one thing to come by and see what it looks like, but it's another to. You don't want to get in the way of the trucks, right? So.
Yeah. All right. Well, a piece of history finally coming down, folks. Let's hope they can all get it together here and come up with a game plan here that works for the future years to come.
There you go.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate
Mark.
it.
How you doing, sir? Good, man. It's quite the truck, man. That is going to get you there.
Yeah, thank you, brother. How you doing?
Good. Yeah.
And Mark Rodriguez, City Council member. We already have the video underway right now. Mark, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Well, now, Mark, what do you know from a city's perspective here? Just get folks up to snuff on what's going to be taking place and what you hope to happen in the future.
Okay, so I guess we could take it back a little bit to the sports gallery facility itself. Obviously, it was a thriving business at one time, and then the owner.
Go ahead, pick that up there. We got to get you a microphone. Can you click that on there?
Yeah.
There we go. Thanks for.
No, you're good. So then it was donated at one point because the previous owner, couldn't do it anymore for various reasons. And wanted it to live on. They really wanted the tennis community to have something, to still do and operate at. But unfortunately, when that took place, there was nobody else that wanted to take it on at the time. No investors. The city owned it for a brief portion of time. And when the city looked into it, the cost of having to bring it up to code, things like that, was kind of expensive. Very similar to what we just dealt with at the pool at PDS golf course. So the city held on to it for a minute and did find an investor from Canada, as you probably mentioned. Supreme Courts, yeah.
Toronto,
and so
Canada.
They came out and said they showed us the plan. They showed the city the plan that they have for this property and what they wanted to do, and they took over. So basically, the city acts like the bank, I guess. So you could say The city is the kind of the bank for them. They pay every month, and they started off doing some additions and things like that. But then once COVID hit, they had some issues coming across the border from Canada. That was a setback, and that's what started the setbacks was COVID. Really, they had some problems coming from Canada to do some work. So since then, this building here, the old sports gallery building itself, has become kind of an eyesore.
Yeah, and that kind of, we actually took a tour.
Yeah.
Have you seen the inside?
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
It's a safety issue because, like, we have some people that are bored in this town, and they've come in here, and as you can see inside, they've vandalized it. I've seen some parties going on in here where, strobe lights, and the cops have to come and kick people out. It's not safe. There's a lot of hazardous things. You can see the broken glass, and it's just not structurally sound.
Yeah, it's a mess.
We don't want young people in there hanging out, which seems like a good time, and it could be a tragic time. So we don't want that happening. So we wanted them to fix that situation. So it was abated for a while, blocked off, as you can see, but people still broke in, vandalized it. But so now we're at the point now where it's just going to have to be demolished. And the Canadian owners, basically refinanced their loan with the city to include this demolition. So they're paying for it. And so that's what's going to happen now. The piece of equipment finally showed up, and they're going to start doing some demoing, hopefully soon, to bring the structure down. That way it's no longer a safety hazard. And they still own it. The city, they still have a plan to beautify it. So hopefully that still goes forward. They've never defaulted on payments, nothing like that. Nothing like that's happening. So we'll just see what happens now that this building comes down.
Okay. So that's the one thing we want to emphasize here. This is not being paid for by the city.
No.
The company that took over the courts from Canada, Supreme Courts, they have continued to pay on the loan.
Yes.
So we want to emphasize that so people don't jump to conclusions here.
Right.
But the question is they've had this property for a couple of years now,
mm-hmm.
and they haven't been able to do anything with it yet, in part because things got more expensive than they originally thought, and they got in over their head kind of thing, or?
Like I said, the first setback they had was COVID when the borders were closed. And obviously they're a Canadian company, so they couldn't come down as frequently as they wanted to. And then once that started, I guess you would say a domino effect of that. Yes, definitely prices of construction has gone up. And I could only assume that may have affected their overall plan, maybe their budget. I don't know. I'm not saying that for a fact, but a project like this, I'm sure that definitely affects their bottom line as well. So, but for now, they still have their plan. They're still paying for the property. They're not in default or anything like that. So, and they are being good stewards by refinancing their loan and making sure that this unsafe structure comes down. So.
Okay. And have you heard at all about their future plans once the building comes down? Because they did some work on the far tennis courts over there. So they did at least do some of that work.
Right.
But that's about all they did. What's the plan for the future? Have you heard anything?
As far as I know, their future, they still want to go ahead with their plan and making this some kind of tennis court facility. Obviously, as you walked around, that's a very big undertaking. The right side is a lot better shape than the left. The left where the pool is and things like that. Yeah. There's a pool that needs to be filled in and all that stuff.
Yeah, we showed folks, if you watch this video from the beginning, we took a tour and we showed the pool in the back there where the pool once was.
Right.
Now, Mark, were you here during the time of this when it was thriving?
Oh, yeah.
So you do remember?
I do remember. This was a great location. One of the only places that's kind of a little bit higher elevation, just where it's at. If you look at these windows, you can kind of see into town. It was a nice view. They had some good karaoke nights here.
It was a restaurant too, right?
Yeah, it was restaurant and bar, as well as the tennis court area. But it was a nice place, and they had the pool and all that stuff. But since then, obviously, it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
No longer a thriving business, unfortunately. But yes, there was a time where this was a really good hangout for a lot of people of all ages to come out and do various things. But it's kind of sad, it's nostalgic looking back on what it used to be to what it is now.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping it's the start of something better. because this property, I mean, you could do a lot of amazing things.
And it's in a
with this
good
property.
Neighborhood too.
It
It's
is.
in a good part of town.
It is. It's it's not far away.
Right
from,
off the highway, right
Yeah.
behind Sierra Cycles off of 92. If
Yeah.
people are wondering where this is at, Sierra Cycles is right over here, folks.
Yeah.
And so this is where the King's Court, or former King's Court,
Yeah.
He's
is.
going to knock down the front part of the building.
Okay, so Eric is just letting us know that he is going to knock down the front part of the building, so I guess we're going to be able to see that on camera. I didn't think we were going to be able to show it because it looked like they were taking their time getting the equipment ready. But at least something is being done now, Mark, to maybe speed up the process now to actually get something done here and open to the public.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's it's something like maybe have a better canvas to work with now. Somewhat of a blank canvas maybe, and they can move forward.
And one of the ideas that I was talking with Scott Borgstad from the police department. He was here just a little bit ago. He was suggesting or thinking, what about turning half into pickleball courts and the other half into tennis courts, and then have an area where the food trucks can go, like in the middle here or around here, and then host tournaments and be open to the public and so forth. He thought that could be a good idea too as well.
Yeah, this place has a lot of potential for something like that. A lot of room for food trucks for sure. Pickleball is on the rise nationwide.
And so why not jump in on the pickleball craze here, since you got the courts, and just make half-half.
Yeah.
And then instead of worrying about focusing on the expense of a complete new building, for food or whatever, do the food truck route.
Yeah.
And maybe make a smaller, less expensive, building.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, that's up to them. They're the they're the business owners, and I know people have talked to them before about pickleball and things like that, and I hope that'd be a great idea for this side of town, and to make it happen, like you said, a real low overhead is you put the money into the facilities, the courts, and then you let when it comes to food and things like that, mobile vendors.
Well, if the folks from Supreme Courts that still own this property in Toronto, Canada, are watching this video, we just gave you a good idea if they haven't thought about it already. And to me, that would be the less expensive way to go, and you can start generating some income and get this area, this beautiful spot, active again for the community, and then just gradually grow it over time if you think it's necessary.
Yeah, and I think the community would support something like that for sure. I mean, our pickleball courts are always full. We have to do a little bit of maintenance on them right now, and that shows you that that's kind of
they're getting a lot of use.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of use.
Well, and we've got such an active pickleball club and in this area that even brought in, I want to say, a national tournament. Was it last year or the year before? So they're working hard to have tournaments in Sierra Vista as well. A piece of history, the King's Courts coming down, established in 1981. Bill McCormick was a doctor, right? He founded the tennis courts here and the project here, King's Courts, in 1981. And then his last year going into retirement was 2013, when he didn't have a buyer. And so then he gifted King's Courts to the city of Sierra Vista at that time for $1, right, Mark?
Correct.
But unfortunately, it's great that it was a nice gesture on his part to do that. So he wanted to see it live on, but it's also a situation where, you know, cities aren't meant to run businesses.
Right.
And so then it took a lot longer of a process there from that point on to try to find solutions to the property to keep it going.
Correct.
And obviously you can see what happened.
Yeah.
Now, Mark, are you a tennis player or pickleball or?
My son is. My son Marcus started the pickleball team at Buena this year. He's kind of got me out there on the court a few times with him. He's kind of
No kidding.
pushed me to play. So yeah, it's growing. Like kids of all ages. You know, he's a junior in high school. So yeah, Buena has a pickleball club now.
Thanks to your son.
Yeah. Yeah,
So he's the original founder of the first pickleball club.
Yeah, they got together. He got some great support from the staff out there, and that are all some teachers that are also pickleball players. And a lot of kids that play, and I love seeing them out there on the courts doing their thing. I love seeing them. It's very competitive amongst all ages, because you would think, you know, that maybe an older team may have less skill. No, those older teams they're serious about their pickleball. And so I love seeing them play against each other, and they all learn from each other.
So the company here is Cat Claw Contractors. They put a bid in for this, right, Mark? And they were the lowest bidder. Is that how it went?
Yeah. So it was put out to bid.
Back in November, I think, of last year.
Yeah, last year. It was put out to bid. Actually, somebody else had won the bid initially. Another company.
Yeah.
That was supposed to do this last year. But unfortunately, it was more of a project than they thought it was. So then they pulled out of the deal, and they had to go back out for bid again. So yeah, it's been a long time coming, this process. And as you can see, it's actually coming down now from this other company that bid on it, that was able to do the work because they had the proper equipment.
The last building we saw being brought down here on Cool FM Live was the Taco Bell on Fry Boulevard there, and a number of months back, and history with that original building there, and now the new building going up in Sierra Vista as well, just getting closer and closer to completion there as well. All right, well, a historic moment here. Finally, some action being done. I know a lot of the neighbors here in the community, I'm sure, are happy that finally something is being done with this building. And hopefully this is a good step forward, Mark, for the future here on this spot. And we can see people playing on the tennis courts sooner rather than later.
I hope so.
Mark Rodriguez, City Council member, thanks for joining us today on Cool FM Live. Appreciate it.
Of course, Todd.
You bet.